and welcome. France and Indonesia have had a mutual and harmonious bilateral cooperation for more than 70 years. It continues to develop, and the two countries have become strategic partners for more than 10 years. Last year, the two governments signed the Plan of Action for the Deepening Strategic Partnership for 2022-2027. It contains several programs, including cooperation in health, defense, climate change, energy, and maritime sectors. So how will the cooperation be this year, especially as France is holding the presidency of the Council of the European Union, and Indonesia the presidency of G20? What are the challenges and what can be improved to enhance the benefit of the two countries? I'm Purwani Diah Prabandari, and you are watching Tempo Talks. Today, we have Ambassador of France to Indonesia and Timor-Leste, His Excellency Olivier Chambard, with us in Tempo Talks. Hello, Pak Chambard, of course.
Selamat siang, Bu.
So, how are you?
Fine. I'm very happy. Senang sekali bisa bertemu dengan Anda.
Yeah, and it's healthy, right? Sehat, yeah. And you know that this is your second posting in Indonesia, right? Yeah. And before you were as the deputy ambassador.
Yes, I was.
In Jakarta in 1997
till 2000.
2000, yeah. And how did you end up to Jakarta again?
Well, I'm not sure the terms ending up in Jakarta is the good one. I asked for being posted to Jakarta for many reasons. Jakarta is a very important and interesting posting and country. But for me, the main reason was to be able to come back to a country that I learned to love during my first stay. And I was with my wife, who were very happy to be able to come back.
What makes you happy about Jakarta or Indonesia in general?
Well, there are many things. Of course, Indonesia is a magnificent country. The job is very interesting. But what makes a country, I think it's the people. And the people, whether in Jakarta or everywhere in Indonesia, the people are nice people, interesting to have contact with. And I wanted to feel that again and to find some old friends and make new ones.
Okay. And you're starting your assignment, the second assignment, in Jakarta in the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, right, in 2020?
Yeah, a bit before. I arrived in October 19.
Oh, okay.
So I had a few quiet months before the all hell broke loose. But no, it changed a lot. My life, my personal life, but more importantly, the life of all the inhabitants of the planet. In France, in Indonesia. And for a diplomat, it's particularly complex because our job is based on contacts.
Yeah, meeting people. and then how did you do that?
So for some time, we managed to continue to meet people a bit less. And of course, you have this wonderful technology which helped us to make video conferences. But I must say, it was necessary. It was unavoidable, but it was not satisfactory because you cannot develop human contacts with video for too long. And especially when you don't know the people. When you know them beforehand, it's easier. When you discover them on video, the contact is shallow.
So it's become a big challenge at the time, yeah?
It is.
Until when?
Well, it's, you know, the COVID pandemic was not like a straight line. You had ups and downs. Yeah, so during the ups, it was possible to meet people again, and during the downs, you stayed put in your office or your home. So what we hope is that now that we are we hope that we are entering in the last phase of this pandemic. Omicron variant is quite active in Europe. Hopefully, it's a very contagious variant, but less dangerous for the health. So the number of deaths is low compared to what happened. And it's also striking Indonesia. We are at the beginning of the phenomenon, but we hope that because Indonesia is a country where the vaccine process is quite good, that the management of the crisis will be easier than the previous one. But we are all facing the same challenges in Europe and in Asia.
And everywhere in the world. What do you think of the cooperation between France and Indonesia, especially since your post sits here twice? So you know the development.
Yes. Well, as you said at the beginning, we enjoy a long-lasting relationship, which was started in 1950 officially with establishment of the diplomatic relations. So when I was there, of course, the relation was very good. Of course, when I was there in '98, Indonesia was in a turmoil, so it
critical
was
time.
less easy to have bilateral relationship. But what I can see is there's a willingness to build on this strategic partnership, which is strong, and to make it stronger and even more develop in other fields. And you mentioned the signature of the plan of action to deepen this strategic partnership, which was signed between Ibu Menlu and our foreign minister, Mr. Le Drian, late November. And it's really a cornerstone to build on that, because France and Indonesia share a lot. We share a common vision of the world. A common vision of the world based on multilateralism. Okay. I think that multilateralism today needs to be upheld, needs champions, and clearly France and Indonesia are champions of multilateralism. In a way, multilateralism could be qualified as the new non-alignment. It's different, but still, the idea that the rule of law, the multilateral forums should be the places to solve conflicts and to have stable equilibrium between countries.
Especially right now, the France become holding the presidency of the Council of the EU, and Indonesia is the presidency of the G20, right?
Absolutely. I think it's a good coincidence. And Indonesia is indeed holding the presidency of G20, but is also going to have the presidency of ASEAN next year. So that's a long road, but for Indonesia, but a very interesting one, in which Indonesia will put its visions and values, and we are counting on Indonesia. So the fact that we share both presidency is important, and the French presidency of the European Union is putting a real emphasis on the Indo-Pacific strategy. You know that European Union developed an Indo-Pacific strategy a few years after the development of the French Indo-Pacific strategy, and France pushed for that. And during our presidency, we intend to do a lot in that matter, and we are holding a ministerial forum on the 22nd of February with, of course, European countries and countries of the Indo-Pacific. And, of course, Indonesia will be at the forefront of those countries. So it's very important that we can share our vision and implement concrete measures in terms of security, environmental matters, economy, digital economy, maritime economy. So the fields are endless.
So that's why France is quite upset with the AUKUS.
Well, AUKUS, what France is developing in its Indo-Pacific strategy, it's the idea of having in the region partnerships based on multilateralism, which is the opposite of the logic of blocks that AUKUS is developing. We had a partnership with Australia,
Right.
because it's not just a question of the sales of submarine. It's not just a commercial question. Of course, commerce is very important, but the most worrying thing is that we discovered that Australia was not a reliable partner in that matter, and the consequence is not just only for France, but it's we think that AUKUS is not helping the stability of the region by pushing it in the logic of blocks and by bypassing the centrality of ASEAN, which, as French and European, we think it's one of the important factors in the stability of the region.
So they should involve ASEAN on that, or countries in the region besides the three countries.
We discovered this AUKUS deal, but ASEAN did discover it too, like Indonesia, if I remember well. The Australian ministers were in Jakarta just a few hours or days before the announcement of AUKUS, and it was not discussed. So each country has a way of treating its allies the way it likes. But France was disappointed and a bit worried by the consequences on the region.
Okay. So, talking about the relationship between France and Indonesia, what's focus or priorities that can be developed between the two countries right now?
Well, we mentioned the deepening of our strategic partnership, and I think it's very important. One of the decisions which was taken during the visit of Minister Le Drian was to install what we call a 2+2 dialogue, the ministers of foreign affairs and defense meeting together, which is, I think, an important step in the strategic relationship. So that's very important. We want to work together on many fields and on multilateral issues. We were quite close with Indonesia during its membership of the Security Council, and we think that we can work together on many fields. On the economic field, we have in Indonesia more than 200 French companies, which are employing more than 50,000 Indonesian workers.
And what sectors?
Or in all sectors, in commerce, in energy, and particularly in renewable energy, also in retail and banking, digital. And many of those companies invested. It's not just companies which are here to sell. They invest, they produce locally, and they contribute to the trade balance of Indonesia by selling their products not only in Indonesia, so products made by Indonesians mainly, and selling those products in the region. So it's really a long-term investment. And so although we have a lot of companies and doing business, I think the French investment should be and could be more important, and we are working on that. But of course, the last 2 years were more difficult because of the pandemic. To start an investment, you have to to travel, to meet people. You don't just do that behind your desk. So we hope as soon as possible.
So it's solved for a while?
Sorry?
So it's stopped for a while?
It didn't stop, but it slowed down.
Okay.
Those who were already there continued, of course, their good work. But new companies seeking opportunities, maybe they were a bit frozen for some months, and I hope we start again soon.
You mentioned about the energy sector, right? The investment in the energy, and we just read that France also committed to assist Indonesia in the green energy transition, right? It's what kind of commitment does France offer to Indonesia?
Well, it's a matter of long and frequent discussions between many countries, and in particular Indonesia. And we were quite impressed by the commitments made by President Jokowi at the COP26 on the deforestation and the efforts of Indonesia. So France, of course, has announced a long time ago that it was ready to help countries to work on their renewable energy transition. France is putting 6 billion euros each year in its assistance worldwide for energy transition. And here, for the last 10 years, the French Development Agency spent 3 billion euros in loans, and the majority of those loans had a green aspect, and 500 millions were completely dedicated to energy transition, which is a very important thing. And energy transition together with development, because energy transition alone means nothing if it's not helping the development. So it's very important. It's very important for Indonesia, for France, for any country in the world.
Yeah. So it's like the commitment that France offered to Indonesia. Is it part of the $100 billion US dollar of climate assistance promised by the wealthy economies to assist the poorer nations?
Absolutely.
That's a part of it.
Yes, that's the part of it. That's the part of it, and I could give you many examples of what France is doing in this field. For example, there's a French research institute, IRD, who's working with Indonesian authorities to manage the plastic debris in the sea. So that's one of the major pollution problem of Indonesia. So we're working together on that. We are also putting money to the weather forecasting for the BNKG to prevent natural catastrophe and to help the maritime development, and so many things. During the visit of the French minister, a letter of intent for 500 million euros was signed. So it's roughly a little less than $600 million. Euro is stronger than dollar. I'm happy to say.
I know.
Those projects are with PLN to finance hydropower plant in Sumatra and a wind farm in Java. And another half of this money is to sustain, to help Indonesia to do its energy transition. So I would say that there's very few projects helped by the French government who is not in the green field, if I may say.
Yeah. Especially that European Union has the Green Deal, right, concept right now. So green issue, it's always become a big issue in the relationship with other countries, including with Indonesia. So actually, is this really difference recently. I mean, it's like in the relationship, in the cooperation between France and Indonesia. So France is more strict on the green issue in the relationship, in the cooperation, including in the economy and other sectors.
Is France more strict? I think it's not a question of being strict. It's that we are all.
I mean, it's like there is a
but
tension usually on the green
we are
issue.
all on the same boat, and I
Okay.
think you just have to look at what happened in Glasgow for the COP26, and there was no opposition between countries, and certainly not between European countries, France in particular, and Indonesia. We all have to work together to find solutions to conciliate development and the fight against climate change. The announcements of Indonesia about its stopping the new coal plants in a bit more in 1 year is a very positive mark, and we want to work with Indonesia on that. So no, it could create tensions. Would create tensions if we had a completely different views, which is not the case. In some cases, we have to adjust and to discuss to fine-tune the cooperation. But no, we are all looking in the same direction.
Selamat datang di Politeknik Tempo, kampus vokasi yang siap menjadi lahan penyemayan ide dan gagasan baru untuk menjawab tantangan di era 4.0. Fasilitas belajar ditunjang sistem Smart Campus dengan pembelajaran serba digital, membuat perkuliahan lebih mudah dan menyenangkan.
Kampus terintegrasi dengan industri media dan komunitas startup sehingga mahasiswa langsung berinteraksi dengan dunia kerja dan dunia usaha sejak dini. 3 program studi unggulan Politeknik Tempo: Desain Media, Produksi Media, Manajemen Pemasaran Internasional.
Sistem blended learning dan kampus merdeka dengan materi belajar 60% praktik menjadikan lulusan Politeknik Tempo sebagai sarjana terapan siap kerja.
Sebagai penyelenggara pendidikan, Tempo Media Group berpengalaman selama 50 tahun di industri media dengan reputasi tinggi. Mari raih masa depan gemilang bersama Politeknik Tempo.
And the Indonesia EU SIPA has not been agreed until now, right?
No.
The negotiation is already, 9 or 10?
10 years.
Yeah. So what is really holding it back?
First, this kind of negotiation are always slow because it involves so many sectors that it takes time and things have to be discussed in the countries with the actors, governmental or non-governmental. So it's could seem long, but it's the normal way. RCEP was not made in 1 day, if I'm correct. So the work is going on. Of course, the COVID didn't help because it made more difficult to have the discussions. And in this kind of discussions, it's very important to not have only video conferences, but also human contact. So it slowed down a bit, but it started again, and we're going to have a new working session in March, which I hope will be good. And what I can say is that the CEPA agreement will produce huge benefits for Indonesia. It will.
But what kind of benefits?
But the access, better access to European markets, and the European economies are not really in competition with Indonesia. So the opening of the Indonesian market will not be detrimental to the Indonesian economic actors. So it's complementary. So really the CEPA agreement is a good thing, and Ibu Menlu mentioned it during her speech at the beginning of the year, and we all want to go. Of course, we all have to protect our interests and to negotiate. That's what diplomats are for.
Right. So it's what can be improved in the cooperation between EU and Indonesia? It's also France and Indonesia.
Well, you can always improve, of course. Between
Mostly in what sector?
Well,
It has big potential.
We just talked about CEPA. I think it
yeah.
would be a great improvement to have the CEPA agreement between Europe and Indonesia, because other countries in the region have already agreements like Vietnam. So that's I think a major step that we hope we can achieve in the next future. Between France and Indonesia, we mentioned it already. I think now we set the steps to go in our strategic relationship. We created this basis with our common values. I mentioned multilateralism, the view of the region. The ASEAN outlook for Indo-Pacific and the French Indo-Pacific strategy, and indeed the European one, are completely on the same line. So we have a lot to work concretely on climate change, maritime security, the fight against the pollution, illegal fishing, security on the seas, you name it, connectivity. So the sectors are multiple, and we have to deliver. And one of the aim of the Forum on Indo-Pacific in Paris is precisely that, with all the actors to work together.
So is it also there is a relationship with the conference that we had by France? It's One Ocean Summit?
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
February.
I'm glad you mentioned it.
Here.
It's going to take place on the 11th of February in a French city, a coastal city, the west coast of France, in Brest. This summit intends to bring together the actors on the maritime field, scientists, local governments, environmental experts, politicians, you name it, to make proposals, calls of actions, as we call it, to propose a solution to manage the necessity to work with the maritime products, with the oceans, and at the same time preserving this nature which is bringing us so many things. The fish, of course, it's linked to the weather, so we have to work together, and it's going to be a great moment. Of course, President Jokowi is invited. Many heads of states are
Is he
invited.
coming?
But tidak tahu. I hope so, and we are working. Either it's coming or maybe deliver a speech or something like that. Of course, the sanitary situation is sometimes difficult, but we are working on that. But Indonesia cannot be absent of this summit. It's you have a huge economic exclusive zone, like we have. You are an archipelagic country. The sea is something fundamental for Indonesia.
So this is like, no, it's like a big issue, the big global issue.
Absolutely. And I have no doubt that Indonesia will be pushing together with us in the right direction.
And that's why you just signed the technical cooperation agreement with Indonesia to support the development of sustainable fisheries here.
Absolutely. Right? Well, the fish resources is one of the SDGs.
Right.
I think nomor 14. So it's fundamental. Our Minister for the Sea, Mrs. Girardin, came last June, and she signed a maritime dialogue with Indonesia, precisely to list all the sectors in which we can cooperate. So it's a long-term cooperation that is starting now.
Okay, so it's become important issue between France and Indonesia too. Yeah, so it's not just in the global.
No, it's unavoidable, and the energy transition is sometimes seen as something a bit problematic for the economy, but we have to look at it positively. It's also giving opportunities, economic opportunities, jobs. Our economies are changing. If you take the Indonesian economy 20 years ago when I was here, it's not the same than now. Same for France. So we have to adapt, and energy transition doesn't mean a diminution of growth. It means a different growth.
Right. Talking about the other issue, about people-to-people connection between Indonesia and France. So what do you think about that? I mean, it's like when you're here, you're signed in Indonesia twice. How do you see the difference in this people-to-people contact or connection?
Well, we have around 500 Indonesian students who are coming each year to France to study. I would say it's not enough, and we were at around 350.
With scholarship or
with or without?
Independent.
France decided during the visit of the minister to double the number of French scholarships given to Indonesian students. But the role of the embassy is also to promote the studies in France, to help students to learn French here, or to indicate some studies that you can do in France without speaking French. It's possible.
All right.
So we have a lot to do. We want to improve, multiply the number. And I was hosting a party a few days ago with alumni, Indonesian alumni, some of a certain age and some very young. And I was impressed by their enthusiasm. They are, for us, ambassadors in all sectors, in the administration. Some of them were former deputy ministers. In science, we have a lot of Indonesian students who are going in France to study science. There is a young lady who's specialized in the maritime science in laboratories, and she's doing fantastic things. There was a singer, there was administrators. So it was very impressive, and we want to develop that. Of course, we are always helping, but our role is to really explain to Indonesian youth that come to France, you will learn many things, and it will help you personally and in your career.
There is Indonesian singer who live in France, right?
Yeah.
Akun.
Akun, is she Indonesian? No, she's French.
She's French, right?
Yeah, she's very popular, and
we still be proud. She's Indonesian.
Yeah, she's a very good singer, and she appears on television shows. She's quite well known in France.
Right.
In France and in Europe, also in Belgium and other countries.
So you think it's a people-to-people connection? It's really help in promoting the good relationship and cooperation between the two countries?
What would be relations between two countries without the relation people-to-people? It would be a very technical and sad business. No, it's very important. That's why COVID-19 was a problem also, because it prevented people to meet and to develop contacts and to see the benefits. It's easier to see the benefits when you're talking directly than going through a lens.
Okay. And Probably this is the last question. If there is any important things that you want to say before we close this.
Well, I want to say that the fact of being appointed for a second time in Indonesia was one of the happiest moments in my professional career. So I want to say to the Indonesians who will look at this program that I'm very proud to represent France here because Indonesia and France have a lot in common. Culturally, I feel really at ease in this country. And French are a bit difficult sometimes.
I know.
And when they are at ease in a country, it means that great things could be done together. And we have an excellent relationship. I think we should build on that. And that's my job. That's my aim. And thank you very much. Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih. But wait a minute. What did you miss the most from your first assignment here? Food or
The people?
the people?
Dan saya suka emping dan sop buntut.
You have any restaurant that special restaurant that you like?
Yeah, well, whether it's fancy restaurant or just
Sop buntut for sop buntut.
simple food, the food is very good and very diverse. That's very important.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chambard.
Thank you very much.
We really appreciate it that you're coming on this program. Now we have to close this insightful conversation. Thank you for watching us. I'm Purwanidia Prabandari. You can watch the next Temple Talks in the following month with another interesting guest and another interesting topics. Goodbye.